But yeah, so it'll be super casual. We'll just have a natural conversation. I think always it makes sense to kind of start with like your beginning.
Sure.
And I do one thing I wanted to clarify. I mean, I'll ask you this more, but do you solely do retail arbitrage?
Pretty much, yeah,
Okay.
I do. I would say I am 95% RA
Okay.
still, and
Awesome.
I do some OA, but not as much as everyone else is, I guess.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. So, alrighty, cool. I just wanted to know that for myself, but I'll just kind of introduce you here and then we'll go from there and then I can just edit out whatever needs to be too, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. So I'm here with Erica, who goes by Retail Rogue. I found her online because Instagram knows what I'm looking at or whatever the case may be. So I'm really glad I stumbled across your page and thank you for being here and joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've followed you on Instagram and YouTube for a while now, not just saying this because I'm talking to you, but I'm a huge fan. So thanks for having
Awesome.
me.
Well, thank you so much. So something that really drew me to having you, and especially as I really enjoy interviewing a lot more people, um, I do primarily online arbitrage, but I have a huge soft spot for retail arbitrage because that's how I got my start and pretty much did that for like my first 2 years. And I've been doing this for 3 years. So I think this is going to be really valuable for anybody at any stage. I don't think RA gets enough love because people just love the online business, but there's a lot of perks to RA. And I'm really excited to dive into that with you. So why don't you take us back from the beginning and tell us how you found Amazon FBA? Did you maybe have a history of buying and selling things? And like, what was your prior career, if you will?
Yeah. So I'm actually a nurse. I actually have my master's degree, so technically I'm a nurse practitioner. But I actually started reselling, I want to say it was 2018 timeframe.
Okay.
I was working on my master's. I had a bunch of textbooks that were just like collecting dust in my house and I wanted to get rid of. I feel like that's kind of like the classic
Right, there it
go-to.
is. Yeah.
Um, and I didn't really know a lot about selling textbooks anyways. I just literally listed the ones that I had in my house and they sold. I came across a YouTube channel called Rally Roots. It's a husband and wife reselling team. I'm not sure if you've heard of them or not, but I'm a huge fan. And they basically were going to like thrift stores, yard sales, and flipping things for a profit. So I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This sounds too good to be true. So my husband and I did that for a little while. I want to say about a year or so. And we were having a lot of fun with it, but time was not on our side. He was working a full-time job. I was working a full-time job and working on my master's. So it wasn't scalable. I didn't feel like.
Sure.
So I actually came across selling on Amazon at that time. And I didn't do it because of the $40 membership fee. Like
Yep.
that will haunt me forever. I sold on eBay because it was free.
Yeah.
And
Right.
knowing what I know now, like I'm just like, gosh, why didn't I start then?
You don't know what you don't know,
Exactly.
but I get
Hindsight's
it.
always 2020.
Yeah.
So I quit selling on eBay about a year or two after that, and I was working as a nurse through the pandemic, which I'm sure, as you can imagine, was very stressful to say the least. Burnout was real. I came across selling on Amazon again at the end of 2020, and I'm like, you know what, like maybe I should give this a try. Once I get something in my head, I kind of am a person that I just obsess over it, and I'm like, I just need to go for it this time.
Yeah.
So started selling in, I guess it was March of 2021, and here we are.
And here we are. Yep. Yeah. I feel like everyone I speak to, very similar starts. Like there's some type of flipping experience, and then somehow you come across FBA
Yeah.
and the scalability and obviously the footprint of Amazon attracts people. And then once you get a taste of it, like, oh yeah, this does
Definitely.
work. It's like there's no going back from
Like you
it,
almost think it's too good to be true. Like I
Right.
remember even in my eBay selling days, like I came across a pair of like Gucci shoes that I bought for $20 and I sold for almost 200. And
Yeah,
it's like,
I know. That's
you
awesome.
know, it's like those things that kind of keep you going where you're like, okay, this can work and people will pay this much money for something.
I completely
mind-blowing.
agree. I think it just takes a couple of those moments to really, like, I remember going into stores early on, not knowing what I was doing. And I had a history of buying and selling stuff, but this was a whole new language. And um, I would buy something, then you prep it, which early on takes a while to figure out, even though it's simple enough. And then it sells, and you're like, oh yeah, I just made double what I spent on it. Like, and
Right.
then you have
Yeah.
these moments of like, oh wow, there's so many stores in the world, there's so many products in the world, there's other people doing this now. I believe it, I get it. So like, just the little momentum at the beginning, I think, goes such a long way.
Yeah, and I think too, like my experience with eBay, I really feel like even though I kind of kick myself for not doing Amazon then, I feel like I wouldn't be where I am today without that experience and just kind of learning the ins and outs of reselling,
Sure.
and even like getting comfortable with shipping items,
Yeah,
like understanding the cost that's associated with that.
I completely agree. And I always say that um, I've bought and sold things in all different realms of life on all different mediums, Mercari. I've sold a home, whatever, that I bought low and sold high. And like, it all comes down to, you have to find something low and sell it higher.
Exactly.
And, the platform will always be evolving and changing, but the principles are kind of the same. It's been around forever.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm curious. So okay, you got your start. I actually read you came across Nikki Kirk, who's someone who I think also, like, I think she, along with a handful of others, were a perfect storm of, they had been putting out content for years, and then the pandemic happened, and so
Sure.
many more eyeballs came across them, and then they just blew up.
Yeah.
She's awesome though. I really respect her. If anyone's not following her, Nikki Kirk, she basically has traveled in an RV and started doing RA as she went town to town, and has made a nice career out of it. So
Yeah,
really,
yeah, she's a complete badass.
yeah,
What she does, from selling to creating content to her courses and groups,
yeah, she's a
have
hustler,
a
and
ton of respect for her. Yeah,
she's like
how I got
co-owner
my
of a
start is
magazine.
actually the one I came across first whenever I started kind of thinking about selling on Amazon, and just literally binge watched all of her videos and some others, but
Yeah,
wouldn't be where I am without her for sure.
no, that's awesome. I agree. I think there's more than enough out there to get started. Eventually, it just comes down to taking action. And, I know there's differing opinions on courses, coaching, things of that nature. I can see both sides of it. But if you're willing to put in more time, there's so much information online that, and nothing will replicate the action anyway. Eventually
Right.
you just got to learn as you
You
go.
gotta rip the band-aid off and go for it.
Yeah, completely agree. Like, there's no better learner than that.
And I feel like too, like I mean, I only started what 2 years ago now, and I feel like even from the time I started to today, there's so much more free content out there. Like
Yeah,
even just with ungating is the main thing that comes to
yeah,
my mind. It's like I know I paid hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get ungated in like grocery and health and beauty, and now it's like you can
I
do
know.
it for so much cheaper than and make money. I
Yeah,
sold those items at a loss because I
I
just
know.
wanted to get
No,
ungated.
I know. I think we can have Gary Vee to thank for that, to be very honest. I think he's ingrained it in enough people's heads. Put out value, put out value, put out value, and then it'll come back tenfold.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think enough people have listened, to be honest. So
yeah.
speaking of ungating, that was going to be a question of mine. I'm curious, did you give yourself like a starting budget? And B, did you go the ungating route right off the bat? And if you did or didn't, reflecting on that now, where do you stand currently on ungating for newbies doing retail arbitrage?
Yeah, so as far as like my starting budget, like whenever I started my business, I think I started with around $1,000 to $1,500.
Okay,
So I knew from the beginning, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right. I want to set myself up for success, because nothing is more frustrating than going into the store, first off, not knowing what to scan or what to even look
right.
for, but then also finding things that you just cannot sell.
Yeah.
So I did get ungated in grocery and health and beauty from the start.
Okay.
And I would 100% recommend it for any newbies, just because it does open up so many more opportunities when you're outsourcing.
Yeah, no, I I 100% agree on the grocery. Like to me, that well, just for me personally, that's where I got my start. And everyone has so many grocery chains near them for the most part.
For sure. Yep.
So I completely agree with that. And it's interesting because I kind of see both sides. I personally think that like sometimes people get again, I think anytime the least amount of friction to taking action is good, and people get caught up in ungating. And it's like if you just stick with it for a little bit, you'll become ungated naturally in so many things. But the only thing that I personally got to experience and look back on was like, yeah, grocery was a no-brainer. Now, if I would have done health and beauty, for instance, who knows? I might be saying that about them. I just didn't. So I'm not here to go one way or the other, but I definitely know grocery helped me as doing retail
Yeah,
arbitrage
and
early
that's
on.
interesting because I mean I still sell grocery to this day. I'm sure whoever's ungated in grocery is selling in that category, right?
Yes.
There is a lot of profit to be made, but I prefer health and beauty. I felt like that's where when I first started, that's where I had the most luck and still have the most luck today. So just
Yeah.
goes to show that everyone's experience is different.
Totally. Something I constantly think about is, I like to try a lot of different categories, stores, items, but then for me at least, I've kind of honed in on like 2 to 3 categories and then become really proficient in
Yeah.
those and, a handful, 10 different brands, 10 different sites and knowing the ins and outs of them. But, but I think about that and I'm like, if there's so many other people doing millions of dollars in sales and they don't even sell the categories I do and vice versa. So
Right.
sometimes I always just have these moments of just like, there is so much more out there. I always feel like I'm just scratching the surface and I'm not just saying that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, and I'm that way with like clothing and apparel. I know,
Yeah.
and shoes. Like, I know tons of sellers that are super successful in those categories. And I do sell some of them, but I feel like I'm still not super confident in the variation piece. There's
Okay.
a lot that goes into it. And I'm getting better, but
Yeah.
it's just not my favorite category to source in. So I don't put in as much work there as I should probably.
Yeah. I don't necessarily love it myself. Obviously the returns are high and things like
Right.
that, but, variations are really valuable. So like
Yeah.
health, like that's something that maybe even at the end of this, just hang on because like I am gung-ho on variations and like because they are a little challenging and intimidating, if you have them figured out, you have such a competitive advantage against so many sellers.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And
So
I'm I understand them to a point, but
right,
it's still like,
I get it.
yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. So what were some of your favorite stores or where'd you find early success doing RA? And like, if you had to list off a couple today, what are they? If you don't mind
So
sharing, by the way.
no, I don't mind at all. So I would say definitely Walmart. It's kind
Okay.
of like still one of my go-tos. I feel like that's where everybody goes, but at the same time, like I know we talked about this a little early on. I feel like there's a huge opportunity right now with RA. So if you
Mhm.
can get into stores instead of shopping online, I think
Yeah.
you might have like better chances of finding some products. So definitely Walmart. I would say like TJ Maxx, Marshalls, those types of stores.
Okay.
Sorry, that was my scanner beeping.
Yeah.
And then like Big Lots, Ollies, Bargain Hunt, like any type of like local liquidation
Cool.
or closeout store. Um, I will say with those, you do have to be careful just because they are flooded with resellers, right? So the
Yeah.
chances of other resellers finding the product, potentially tanking the price are high. So you do have to be a little more careful with those types of places.
Cool. And so something that I remember when I was new, I was always a little scared of like TJ Maxx and Marshalls because the information that I got was these receipts won't hold up. Uh, do you recall, or I'm sure you've heard that before, and what is your take on that?
I have heard that before, and I've actually heard people like recommending taking a photo with the receipt next to
Yeah,
the
that was like,
item with the. I did that when I first started, and to be honest, like it was annoying.
yeah,
I'm lazy. I didn't want to take that extra step and have like my phone flooded with these images that I'm probably
yes.
never going to have to use. So knock on wood, I haven't had any issues with using TJ Maxx or Marshall's receipts.
Okay.
I'll usually just try to like call out, like if I have to submit it to Amazon for whatever reason, I'll
Mhm.
like highlight the section where that product was and hope for the best. And 9 times out of 10, they take it. So
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. I mean, so many people do it. I feel like it can't be that unfathomable to give them receipts if they need it or whatever, you
Right,
know?
right. And I also, when going to those stores, I do try to be careful at
Right.
brands that I buy. If it's a brand that I know I've sold in the past without any issues, I don't worry about it. If it's a brand that I'm a little leery on, then I'll do a little more research just to
Yeah.
make sure that there's not any issues. But
Cool. Um, yeah, no, it's funny. Ollie's was one of the first ones I was like, oh my gosh, this is
yeah.
like a gold mine, you
Yes,
know?
yes. And I still to this day absolutely love Ollie's. Not as much. I just moved. And where I lived before, I made friends with the workers. Like literally, I would walk into the store, they would know my name. They would
Yeah.
be like, "Hey Erica, how are you?" Like
Yeah.
the manager would text me, like, "Hey, we got this product." They knew I had bought it before. So they would like hold stuff and not put stickers on it because they knew I would come get it.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. That's real. Taking
Yes,
stickers off is like the worst.
literally, it's the worst. Yeah.
Um, so I think this is worth stopping on to mention for a second. So how did it come? Did you just lead with, hey, to the store manager, employees, hey, I sell on Amazon? Because you pile up carts, people have questions eventually. How did that like conversation go?
That's a great question. I'm like, how did I think that I would literally go into Ollie's like once, twice, sometimes
Yeah.
3 days, 3 times a week. I was new
Okay.
to the store, so I would literally I would go in there multiple times a week to the point where they're like, okay, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's
And
undeniable, right?
and you go up to the register with like a cart full of one item, and they're like, okay, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And that's just how it like just they were nice, I was nice, I'm helping them out because I'm taking their inventory, I'm not like stealing it, I'm paying for it, right?
Yeah.
So I was their best customer
Cool.
before.
Yeah, it's funny going back, and I remember, at first it's this uncomfortable thing,
Yeah.
and I started with heavy into bras at Kohl's,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Because I followed a group and they were really promoting that because of all the variations and stuff, and that's how I got my start in Kohl's. And like, I'm a big guy, and I'm just like in the bra section going item by item
Like
by
scanning.
item,
Yeah.
and it's like I know people are paying attention. And then though, I'll be honest, for one, just me personally, I never really cared, but I could see where that intimidates some people. But then I'm curious, was it uncomfortable for you at first scanning? How did you like circumvent that? And did you also just get to a point very quickly like I don't care whatsoever?
Yeah. That's like, I guess even today, some of the things that like, I don't know, it just doesn't bother me as much, I guess. I feel like I'll have a cart full of stuff and people are like walking past, staring at, making comments like,
Yeah.
oh, you must run a lot, if I have a cart full of shoes or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you just kind of just shake it off, nod your
Yeah.
head, laugh, move on. I had one guy, it was a couple weeks ago, I had bought, it was like this calming baby lotion. And it was on sale, about like 10 or 15 of them, however many they had. And the guy in front of me was like, oh, that's a lot of baby lotion. I'm like, yeah, it was on sale, whatever. And he's like, oh, calming baby lotion. I'm sorry you're going through that. I'm like, you think I'm gonna put all this on my baby? Like,
Yeah.
it's just funny. You learn to just keep doing what you're doing and brush it
That it's funny. This really is taking me down memory lane with retail arbitrage, because also like I remember I would do women's hygiene products
Yeah.
or just other things, but whatever the cashier led with, like, oh, if they decided to say something, I just agree with it. Oh, you must have a big family. Yep. Oh, you
Yep.
must be this and that.
And,
Yep.
and sometimes it's awkward. Like it was Q4. I bought a lot of like Pokemon cards, and my mom was with me. I had a cart full of these Pokemon cards. There wasn't a purchase limit. So I bought them all up and went up to the register. The lady calls the manager and is like, hey, is there a limit on these? No. Okay. So she's like, sorry, I have to make sure there's not a limit on them. People will come in here, buy them, and resell them to try to make money. Like she was like bad mouthing resellers. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm doing.
That's so
My
funny. I
mom is
have
like had to leave because she's like about to die, and I'm just trying
it's
to
like,
keep a
yeah,
straight face. And
that's so funny. I was at I'll give a lead to during the holidays when I was doing retail arbitrage, even now when I pretty much do OA, there's a Trader Joe's by me, and Trader Joe's is great for sourcing. For anyone out there, I'm not just saying this, and I don't know if you're close to one, but if you think about it, Trader Joe's has a cult following. They have super unique products. Their barcodes don't scan, so you have to put in the work to type in keywords. And if you're and the only place that people can buy Trader Joe's is online. Okay. So if you're willing to go in there and figure out Trader Joe's, it's a great opportunity, especially during the holidays. But I say that to say, I bought like 20 of something at Trader Joe's, and the guy was asking me, and I think I made up a story about like, was taking it to my office, you know, or something like that. And he was saying, yeah, you wouldn't believe it. Some people take these and like sell them on Amazon. And I'm like, straight face, I was like, people really do that?
See, I'm a horrible liar. So like, I would probably just like bust up laughing, because like, I guess when you're in the heat of the moment, you can fight through it, but
it's funny. But I don't miss that about RA. But so something I want to go back to, because I think this is a really, really important piece for people that are selling on Amazon. A very common question is, when can I quit my job? When should I quit my job? And I have my own stance on it. And I think that I want to preface, the average person who hasn't sold on Amazon doesn't fully understand that. If I tell you I make 10 grand profit last month, my bank account doesn't reflect 10 grand the way I would if I got 10 grand from a 9-to-5 job, right? Because it's an inventory business, and you always have inventory, there's lag time, etc. So I'd really like to know, how are you, and maybe I'm incorrect, are you full-time reselling, or are you still a nurse, or did you transition from a nurse?
So I transitioned from a nurse.
Okay.
So I was working full-time as a nurse, doing this as a side hustle, and left my job in September of 2022 is when I went full-time.
Okay.
I was kind of in a unique position. My husband was relocating for work, and so we had to, you know, just pack up and move. So I was kind of at a crossroads there, where it's like, okay, I know I'm not going to be able to stay at my current job. What do we do from here? I always wanted to go full-time Amazon. I wasn't planning on going full-time for a couple of years. But it was like, okay, do I get another nursing job, maybe part-time, and focus on my business, or do I just go all in Amazon? And decided to go all in Amazon. Really, the deciding factor was we were seeing my growth, we were seeing my numbers increase, my profit increase each month, but I felt like time was not on my side. Like I felt like I had grown to the point that I could while working full time. So that's how we made the decision there.
Okay. No, that's good. I like that. And then it's actually interesting you say that. I moved from Florida, where I was only doing RA, to North Carolina. And South Florida is so populated with stores. It's great for RA. And my turning point was to switch from RA to OA, because it was a much less populated area and stuff like that. And pros and cons to both, but that's interesting that the move also prompted your kind of, it kind of helped make your decision or it kind of catapulted you into making that decision. It wasn't just like, you know, same location, I'm making more and more and more. So that was kind of, I mean, you were, but you know, it led to that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And honestly, if we weren't seeing the growth and we weren't seeing my profit increase each month, it would probably be a different story. But I just really felt like if I had more time to focus on my business, that I could grow even more, and I did. So
yeah, no, awesome. So, you know, something I want to point out to people, because now I've done both RA and OA, you know, orange bars are very attractive, right? But what people don't, I think, fully understand, at least for me, and I want to get your numbers as far as like margins and stuff, return on investment. What I could do, if I did 30K a month in RA, I could probably make the same amount of profit as if I was doing 70, 80K a month, maybe like 60, 70K a month doing OA. And I don't think people fully grasp that. You know, the margins from my experience with RA, I always strived for 100% return on investment. If I spend $1, make $1. And it wasn't uncommon to get a lot of products that were like 300, 400, 500% because they're unique to that specific store or region. And for whatever reason, they're offloading them, but there's still demand for them. So I'm curious, what do you strive for as far as like ROI goes, and if you don't mind sharing your profit margin as well?
Yeah, so as far as ROI goes, I really try to stick to a minimum of 50% when I'm doing RA. That's just kind of was my number when I started, and is where I stick to for the most part, even today. Now that I'm a little more comfortable with like Keepa and knowing what sells and what may not sell, I will stray from that if I think it's still a good opportunity where I can get, more, maybe more units at a
Sure.
lower ROI. As far as my profit margins go, I would say they range somewhere around 20%, I would
Yeah,
say on average. Obviously some months being better than others,
of
but
course.
like I know, for example, last month my sales were higher than this month, but I liquidated a bunch of inventory
Yeah.
and my margins were much lower than they are this month. So,
Yep.
like you
It
said, the
happens.
orange bars don't mean everything.
Yeah. So let me ask you what I'm sure a lot of people, if they come across this, were to be thinking, why not transition to OA? I know there's pros and cons of both, but I'm curious to hear from you why
Yeah,
you haven't, or if you plan to, or just tell me what you like about RA.
it's where I got my start. So, like you said, like you just have a soft spot for
Yeah.
RA, and I think that's where I still am today. I'm still really enjoying it. I'm still seeing growth. So I think, if at some point that growth starts to slow down or stop, then I will start branching off and do more OA. I feel like it's kind of an unpopular opinion right now,
Yeah.
but I feel like there is a huge opportunity with RA
Yeah.
because so many sellers are transitioning from RA to OA. I feel like those who are sticking to RA, like, I just feel like there's a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
And maybe I just jinxed it because now people are going to watch this and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go back to RA.
Yeah.
But I just feel like there's a huge opportunity. Like, for example, I use a prep center, and I live pretty close to a large city, and I'm the only RA seller that drops off.
Interesting. Okay. I was going to ask you about that because to me, that's with OA too. It was just like eating me alive after a couple of years of prepping and
Oh my
packing. It's like,
gosh.
this ain't it. Um, so you actually drop your stuff off to a local prep center.
I do. Yep. It's
Okay.
about 30 minutes from my house. So, round trip, call it an hour, hour and a half. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely spending way more than an hour and a half of my time doing my own prep. So for me, it's
100%. That's cool.
so worth it. Yeah.
And so because I'm curious myself, like how does that work? Like when you get there, because I'm thinking OA, they receive packages and then they check them into your shelf or whatever. So do you give them a heads up, or what is that? Is it like a weekly thing, or do you do that every time you do a haul? How does that work?
So they ask that I just notify them before I drop off, like usually at least within 24 hours. I think they're pretty lenient on that
Yeah.
though. So I'll just send them an email. Hey, I'm going to be dropping off some inventory tomorrow at this time. And then I just literally unload everything into their warehouse, like put it on their pallet, and that's it. They peel stickers for me.
Oh,
They
that's
like,
nice.
it's, yeah.
What are you paying per unit?
So for single units, it's $1 an item.
Oh, wow.
So it's $1 an item. Bundles are $1.50 if it's a 2-pack, and then it goes up if it's larger quantity.
That's really good. At least
Yeah.
from my experience.
Yeah, I was happy with it. It's like now when I'm sourcing, I try to just obviously factor in that additional dollar, but
Yeah.
it's so worth it from a time perspective.
Yeah, totally. That's really cool. I never really thought about I guess if you live close to one, that's an option. I think that's great. If I had one close to me, I think that could be a game changer. Like I could see doing
Yeah,
more RA. I think for me, I think for so many people, even if you're set on OA, because let's say you work a 9 to 5, even though you could do nights and weekends, whatever, for whatever reason, let's just say you're set on OA or online business. My whole thing is like, start with RA. There's no friction. Anybody can go to a store today, tomorrow, and scan and get their feet wet. There's a lot more learning
right.
curve to OA. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm such an advocate for anybody to take action. And I think RA is the easiest way to take action.
for sure, for sure. I think that there's also a little less risk just because you can buy the product and get it sent in. You don't have to wait for it to arrive to your house or to your prep center. And even like, I'm going back to what you said about the profit margins with RA. I think that's one of my big, I don't know the right word, like one of the reasons why I'm sticking with RA. I have a hard time sourcing OA and going low, like it just want that 50% or that 100% ROI, and it's not as likely with OA.
I get it. I also think that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Like for myself, I mean, I like the convenience of OA. And I would say if you have the capital and the confidence in the ability, I think for a lot of people, what happens is it's like, if I have the capital, I don't care what my profit margin is, I care what my profit is, right? So I can understand that argument too, if you have it. But, obviously with everything, there's a little bit of risk involved. You're going to be competing with people, just everything has pros and cons. What else I was thinking as you were telling me you use a prep center, because you do RA, you have no leakage. There's no, oh, I ordered 12 and only 8 showed up, or the prep center lost. I mean, I guess they could still lose it, but like,
Sure.
You are literally there. That's really nice too.
Yeah. And I will, I still do some OA. Like I try to do some every week. That way, at least if I'm not going out and doing RA as much, I know I'm at least getting that inventory cycle, like the continuous cycle, right? And I can ship my OA packages to my prep center, like that's an option. Right. I haven't been, only because I'm not doing it at a high enough volume for, for it to really make sense. So I just have it shipped here, and then I just open the box, make sure it's all there, and then take it to the prep center.
And just for people listening, I know we mentioned this ahead of time. You said you do like 95% RA, 5% OA if you had to put numbers on it?
Anywhere from 90 to 95%
RA. Okay, cool. What I'm curious of is, so as somebody who, let's just say, primarily does RA, what tools are you using and what are you using in store to scan?
So I'm just using the Amazon seller app to scan. I have tried like Scoutify, and I'm just there. I like it. It's just, I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of it. But I would say my go-to tools are the Amazon seller app, Keepa, of course, like can't even sell without it. And then I also use Inventory Lab, obviously not in the stores, but those are the 3 tools that I use daily. Yeah,
no, I love that. I think it's really important to note that you don't need it, especially early on, you don't know exactly what you need, but I completely agree with that. Keepa's day one. Inventory Lab, especially if you do retail arbitrage, is awesome. I love doing product research, the accounting. I will say I'm a Scoutify too on the scanning app all day long. I think most people are, to be honest.
I think so. I think I'm just like maybe old school. I don't know. Like I got Inventory Lab about a year ago, so I didn't have it from the very beginning. I think if I would have, then it would be different. It's just, I started with the Amazon seller app, and that's just what I've stuck with. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And do you mind sharing like where you're at, or maybe the evolution of your sales, and like what's been maybe your best month, and what are you projecting to do or hope to do in the near future? Yeah, so I would say, let me pull out my phone here. Yeah. This month has actually been like, the start of the year has been slower, which is kind of a struggle because, you come off from the heat of Q4, and this Q4 was like absolutely insane. Like it was, technically my second Q4, but I'm still calling it my first, because it was like the first where I really knew kind of what to expect and what I was doing. So my best month in Q4, we'll start there, was December, and I sold almost 50K. Wow. Right at 47. That's awesome. And that's just doing RA. So especially impressive. With just RA, I was pretty proud of that. And then, this month has been, or the start to this year has been a little slow, but I'm sitting at like 16K for the month. Cool. Again, my profit margins are about 20-25%. So awesome. Yeah, 50K all RA. That's really awesome. Good for you. Thank you. Yeah. Speaking of, so I'm always curious. I like to ask people, like, I know no 2 days are the same, but maybe you could tell me, like, how many hours would you say you're sourcing every week? And if you could give me like just an average day, like what does that look like on your Amazon business? And I think one of the things I like to point out to people, which, not to lead you to answer this one way or the other,
I think once you get going, it doesn't take nearly the amount of hours that people assume it takes. Like your sourcing
Right.
becomes so much better, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like too, the time that I am sourcing compared to somebody with, or just an RA seller in general, is going to look much different from an OA seller, right?
Sure.
Because I'm
100%.
having to drive to the stores and commute to where, however far that may be. But I try to source 2 days a week, sometimes 3, depending on how I'm feeling, honestly.
Okay.
But I try to do 2 full days of sourcing, and that can be anywhere from 6 to 10 hour days, depending on, if I'm crushing, then I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say, I don't know, call it like 10 to 14 hours of sourcing a week doing
Yeah.
RA.
Okay.
And then, my other days are spent either doing a little bit of online arbitrage. I try to do 2 hours on the days that I'm not doing RA,
Cool.
now that I have my prep center. And then focusing on like my blog, YouTube, other back end tasks like bookkeeping, those types of things.
I imagine you use a repricer.
I don't.
Wow.
The
And still
repricer.
doing those.
I
Okay.
am old school. I'm telling you.
You are old school.
I told my husband yesterday, I'm like, I'm really thinking about getting a repricer, because it's like I literally will sit down and just reprice my items. And
No,
I hate it.
I need
I hate
to
it.
step in.
Every
You
time
need
I
to get a
do it,
repricer.
every time I do it, I hate it. And I'm just like, why am I doing this? And I don't know why I have it. I think I thought that they were like super expensive. And I sat down yesterday to look at them, and they're not. Like, some of them are affordable. So it's like,
Yeah. I've used a couple. I started with something called Aura. I didn't love that because it was too time consuming and it was rule based, meaning if this happens, then do this. And then I was put on to like AI based repricers, and I used Seller Snap, and this is going to sound crazy. It was like $500 a month. And then I eventually was like, there's got to be a better way. And I've come across something called Profit Protector Pro,
okay.
and it's $65 a month. There's no doubt in my mind it would pay for itself and save you the time and headache too.
Yeah.
But,
And that's kind of where I'm at too. Like when I'm looking at how I want to scale and what my next steps look like, it's like, okay, I maxed myself out to what I could do, which is why I got the prep center, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now I can get rid of prep. I plan to now I looking at other ways that I can outsource, whether that's, probably my next one would be to get a repricer, which
Yeah.
I might focus on doing that this week.
Yeah, no, I think for the most part too, I want to say they all have at least a free trial period.
Yeah.
And I think you'll see a substantial jump right off the bat. But yeah, no, listen, I can respect the old school approach.
I don't know why I do it, because I hate it. Like every time I sit down to reprice my items, I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, no, you're answering your own
But
question right there.
Yeah,
but
because it's clear, like I reprice my items and then my sales
I know.
skyrocket. It's like, if that was happening all the time.
We all have our little nuances and unique way of doing things. So no judgment here, but I think you would benefit from one for sure.
Good to know. And what did you say? Profit Protector Pro?
Profit Protector Pro. So
Okay.
PPP. So let me ask you this, especially with RA. What is your take on returning items that don't sell back to the store?
This is a touchy subject.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not gonna. I've done it.
I've done it. Yeah.
I think we all have done it. I'm trying to tread lightly here so I don't put like a giant bullseye on my back. I think it depends on the situation. I still to this day, even like with online arbitrage, I've seen some where it's like, okay, I if I'm sent the wrong item, like I want to return that item and get my money back. Or, but I've even seen that there's like some negative things around that.
Yeah.
I don't know the right answer.
So what?
I guess the way I view it is like customers can return products to me, and it's a part of doing business, right? Now, if I just make a bad buy, am I going to return that product?
Yeah.
It depends. Yeah. It depends. I'm not going to say it's right, but I'm
Yeah.
also not going to say it's like wrong either. I'm trying
Yeah.
to like, I think what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like run around the question here
Yeah.
and
No,
not
it's
put a
like
giant bullseye on my back.
this is like a PC question answer. Well, I'll share where I stand for anyone listening. And like, I have done it. Okay. And I think a lot of people can relate to thinking they found a home run early on in their journey, getting home and being like, oh yeah, I'm actually not allowed to sell this. Oh, I completely didn't know what I was doing. I don't want to be out $300 and whatever, you know? So I do understand it. I've been there, but I would say as I've done this longer, I don't think about the returning being a like I'm opposed to returning things. Okay. And it's not a moral high road thing. For me, it's just a business move. Like for me, if you have a store that you source at regularly, especially big picture play, I don't want to burn any bridges. I don't want to bring negative attention to myself. I don't want somebody to not want me to buy product. You know, a lot of stores I think are technically not reseller friendly, but they just don't care at the local level. So I don't want to give them a reason to care, right? Now, and the other thing is like, even if you like, I literally have I bought 20 boxes of these protein bars, but I should have done some more research. It was my first time, and this is like brand new. I have them literally, I could see them. And I went to list them, and I wasn't allowed to. It probably just had an ingredient or promoted health or weight loss, which could be touchy, whatever. So what I'm doing is selling them for a small loss on eBay. Do I like selling on eBay? No. You could also do it Mercari, Facebook Marketplace, whatever. So I'm not here to say it makes you a bad person. I just don't want to burn bridges. And for OA, I buy a lot from a lot of sites. The last thing I want to do is say, hey, go through my account where you can see I've bought 5,000 units over the last year. And now, you know, stop selling to me. So that's my take as far as that goes. It's not a better than or worse than. I just think from a business perspective, and there's always going to be unique instances and one-offs. That's kind of my thing. If I do get something broken for OA, like I sell a lot of vitamins, some of them are glass. Even then I'm hesitant because I don't want to bring negative attention to myself. So what I may do is buy them online and then go to a local retailer if I have one in my area just to return those few broken ones. But yeah, I just, you know, it's a touchy subject in the Amazon world. So I just wanted to share my
It
2
is,
cents.
yeah, and I'm laughing at myself because I was literally like trying to dodge it, you know. But no, I think that's a great point too. And I will say, like, even when I like the Ollie store, for example, where I made friends with the manager, like I never returned anything there.
Yeah.
Probably because I had a relationship with that store and the workers there. And, I would say too, like for me, it comes down to the specific situation, right? Like I'm never going to recall something from Amazon and return it. Like
Right.
here I am peeling off the labels and taking it back to Walmart.
Yeah. I
Um,
know.
and it also depends, like how many units are you going to be returning? Is it just one or two?
Right.
That's probably more acceptable than
Right.
returning your 200 units,
Yeah. No, totally. I could also see in that instance too, like if you have a husband, wife, significant other, friend, whatever, just be like, hey, go return these for me. I'll give you, I'll buy you lunch or something like that if it's worth it. Just so they don't even see your face type of thing,
Right. Right. Yeah. But you know what? If I ask my husband, like, hey, will you go return these 200 vitamins? Like, he would just look at me and laugh. Like, he wouldn't do it. He's
Yeah.
supportive of my reselling, but he wouldn't return.
Yeah. So speaking of husband, a question I like to ask a lot of people is like, how did he and or maybe family and friends perceive your Amazon business, or even currently? I have a feeling most people, when I tell them I have like an Amazon store, even if I explain it, I guarantee they're thinking, okay, he does, a couple $100 or whatever. So
Sure.
did you have support? And not just that, I mean, you made a pretty substantial jump going from a nurse having your master's to doing this. So like, tell me
Yeah.
about behind the scenes or how you dealt with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as my husband goes, he had lived the reselling life with me. So
Yeah.
he gets it. Like he sees how hard I'm working, and like he understands the ins and outs, or at least I hope he does.
Yeah.
But he's very supportive, never had any type of like, I wouldn't be here without his support 1000%.
That's
So
cool.
as far as like other, the rest of my family, they've all been supportive too. I don't think that they realized how the potential that reselling and selling on Amazon could have until I left my very stable, steady job
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do it full time, right? Like they probably thought that I had lost my absolute mind.
Yeah.
Um, but I also don't think, not just my family, but people in general that aren't doing it or that aren't living with somebody who's doing it, they don't understand how much work truly goes into it.
Right.
It sounds great. Like I'm my own boss. I get to set my own schedule, but weekends, I'm usually going to work on the weekends, at least some,
Yeah.
like there's just a lot that goes into owning any type of small business that you
Sure.
don't understand behind the scenes. So
Cool.
I think that that's a big thing that people don't understand.
Yeah. Do you think of yourself in the world, like, for just as a title, like, do you feel like entrepreneurial, or do you still kind of just see it as like a little side hustle, or like where do you stand on that?
I feel more like entrepreneur. I can't. I'm gonna get tongue tied.
It's
More
a
like
tough
a
one.
business owner.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of one of my issues when I first started. I started it as a side hustle and as a hobby, right? So I
Yeah.
had a hard time getting shifting my mindset to like, okay, this is no longer a side hustle. This is a business. This
Right.
is like, treat it like a business. And that would
Totally.
be one of my top recommendations to anybody starting is treat it like a business from day one.
100% agree
It's
with that.
okay if it's fun. It's okay if it's fun. Like I had a
Right.
hard time with that concept because it's like, I feel like we're trained as a society that work is work and fun is fun, but you can't have fun.
Right.
Right? Like
I agree.
work isn't supposed to be fun, but
Yeah.
I had to come to the realization that it's okay that this is my job and then I'm having fun doing it.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. And I agree with you. Like, it's funny. There's good and bad with anything, but like, I was just talking to my significant other recently, and I was like, I enjoy the Amazon stuff. It's like even physically, constant dopamine hits when you find winning products,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm thinking back to like when you asked about like my husband and family and that type of thing, like it was last Q4. I would say that was really the time when my husband was like, okay, this can actually work. And even
Yeah.
me, because I don't know if you were selling at that time, but I don't know if you had were you part of the tech deck phase?
No,
Okay, so last Q4, this tech deck toy absolutely blew up. It was
I remember them from like middle school though, or something.
yeah, so there was like this variety pack of tech decks that absolutely blew up. I had heard about them. I found them at Walmart. My husband and I were just like grocery shopping and I freaked out because I'm like, oh my gosh, there are these tech decks. So I listed some in the store, all sold. We bought 175 of them. They
Wow.
were sold within an hour.
Wow. Wait, did you get 175 from one location?
Yeah,
Wow.
I lucked into them. Okay,
That's
so they
cool.
all sold. So
Yeah.
then my husband and I get in the car and we're like, okay, like let's go
Yeah.
to another Walmart. And I ended up selling like almost 300 of these tech decks
Wow.
in 24 hours.
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning there. That is obviously a home run, right?
Yeah.
But I
It
also
doesn't always
think,
work that way.
yeah, no, you just got to go hit the singles, like hit, using a baseball metaphor, like hit singles, hit singles,
Yeah.
hit singles. The home runs will come, but if you don't step up to the plate, none of it will ever happen,
Exactly.
And-
And I think too, like, I feel like all year you are training for Q4 so you can trust your gut
yeah,
and to know when you found that home run product and like
totally.
know when it's okay to go deep, right? Like knowing how to do those test buys and to slowly creep into it so you don't burn up all your profit.
Yeah, I mean, when you see a keep a chart or context clues, it's like, and you've already gone through thousands of these, and you have the feedback from all of your products that you've shipped. It's like, you're right. It prepares you for these opportunities, because if that opportunity presented itself on day one, you wouldn't know what you're doing,
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one thing I really, really do like about Amazon, is that I feel like I get better every single day. And as my catalog grows, then like my replenishables are going to grow every day. So it's just going to be this constant spider web effect. And like you said, come Q4, I kind of feel like anything that you sell at all during the year has a good chance to be profitable in Q4.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Like I said, like this past Q4 was technically my second Q4,
yeah,
but I'm calling it my first because it was like
I
I
get it.
actually knew what I was doing. And I still like wish I would have done things differently looking back.
Yeah,
I should have bought more of this item. I
I
should
know.
have
Oh,
sourced harder. I should have, hindsight's always 2020, but now
yeah.
I know kind of even more for next year.
So
So
I feel the exact same way. So it was in my third Q4, but I felt like it was really my first because it was my first doing OA. So my first was just a couple months in this, but it really, really opened my eyes. So now like you said, now I know for next year. And I think what that also doubles downs on, whatever, is Amazon's a long-term play. I always say that to people, like, you're not going to get rich quick overnight, but if you can slowly get rich, and I say rich, it's all subjective, but like there's good money to be made, but you really have to treat it as a long-term play, at least in my opinion. And like the fact that you say, I'll take what I learned last Q4, and you're talking a year from now, what you'll do differently. Like that's the mentality I have too. And it's also what I think a lot of people that have had success,
yeah, for sure.
So let me ask you, when it comes to Amazon, I mean, you seem to enjoy it. You're making good money. You like doing RA. Do you have is there like an end game in sight for you? Or like, do you have an idea of how long you think you'll do this? Do you see doing this as long as time? Like not for
Yeah,
better or
I
worse. I'm
think,
just curious.
the way I look at it too is if my business for whatever reason were to crash and burn, like I have a solid backup plan.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't want I don't want I don't want that to be my backup plan,
Yeah.
right? Like the way I do the way I view my business is that like I don't like failure is not an option.
Yeah.
Like I want to
Love
make
that.
this work because I don't want not that being a nurse and being in healthcare wasn't a great experience and it's something like I'm forever grateful for. I'm proud of all those accomplishments, but it didn't bring me the same, it's just not the same as working for yourself
Yeah.
and building your own kind of empire and that type of thing. So I don't know. I'd say for me, end game, like I plan to do this for as long as it's making me happy. If
Yeah.
one day I open my eyes and I'm like, man, I really freaking hate selling on Amazon. I don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Then I'll figure it out from there. But for now, I don't
Cool.
plan to stop anytime soon.
Yeah. And I want to add to that too, at least for myself. And I think that just because, not to make it about my thoughts, but I think it could be valuable to people because everyone has different perspectives on this. To me, it's like, why not? At this point, for me, I mean, I think one of the best things I've done has been, I'm very consistent with my sourcing. I source like very focused, like 2 hours a day, sometimes more, obviously there's exceptions and stuff like that, but I think a key is creating a schedule or environment for yourself that's sustainable. If somebody's sourcing 12 hours a day, doing RA every day, it's not sustainable. Like it's just not, and you're going to get tired of it and this and that. And I think just finding that right balance of like how much you should put into it. And, the longer you do this, the better you get at sourcing, and you don't have to put in as much time to achieve the same results or more. So I think it's a really cool opportunity in that regard, that it doesn't have to be 24/7, 365 to make full-time income, basically.
Yeah. And I think that that's a great point. I've been doing a lot of reading here lately, and there was a quote that I came across, and I know I'm going to butcher it, but it's something along the lines of like, do what you do in joy. You don't have to do it all in misery. Right.
Yeah.
Like, so that's kind of like, I don't know, it really resonated with me because it's like, don't be miserable. Like, I don't have to do this. Let's not get worked up over every little thing that may happen, or like, just enjoy it. If at some point I'm getting frazzled, I know like it's okay to step away.
Yeah.
Even though it's just me, like, know when you need to step away from it.
No, I think that's a great perspective. I agree. There's certainly times where I'm like, I'm like just kind of going through everything, enjoying it. It's cool. It's like, oh, this is great for work. And there's other times it's like, now I don't really prep and pack anymore, but up until a couple months ago, I was, and I remember days and just being like so fed up. And I was like, just step away. It doesn't have to go out,
Yeah. It's okay if the shipment goes out tomorrow, or
right. Exactly.
if you don't go sourcing today and you go sourcing tomorrow, like whatever it is,
100%.
it'll be okay.
I want to ask you something I like to ask everybody, myself, and you know, I struggled with something, and that is, you know, you're starting to spend more and more capital, and you have this trust that everything is going to go well. Like, have you ever had at any stage fear, whether because of horror stories or misconceptions, that like all of a sudden all of your inventory, all your money can be tied up in Amazon? And if you did, how did you overcome that?
Yeah, so I think this is an interesting question. When you sent me the question, like, so I guess in every Amazon seller's head, it's going around like, oh my gosh, what if my account gets deactivated or suspended and I can't get my funds,
Yeah.
and they hold my inventory. And I don't know, I try not to think too much about it. I don't know. I'm gonna call myself a spaz. I'm calling myself out here. I'm a spaz. I like to stress about like stupid little things. So it's just one of those things. I just have to not think about it,
Yeah.
because if it happens, it happens. There's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
I'll cross that bridge when it comes and figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. I take steps obviously to, maintain good account health
Right.
and avoid IP complaints, just make smart buying decisions in general. Or you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, if it happens, we will figure it out. But there are a lot of horror stories out there. I know when I first started, it was more like, I don't know, like it was scarier then,
Yeah.
right? Knowing what I know now, it's not as bad as it seems.
Yeah, totally. You know, I think the horror stories are like the loud minority, you know, those,
Yeah.
especially early on. I get it. Like, it can be scary, but I've said this in other episodes and stuff, but I think it's worth repeating that I think personally, if you do things how you're supposed to do them and do things the right way, I think very, very few things are insurmountable to come back from. And like, I'm coming up on 3 years. I've never had suspension or any, you know, I do the logical things. Like, I check my account health very frequently. If there is something, I handle it quickly. I don't sell
Exactly.
counterfeits. I don't try to cut corners on, you know, if something's damaged package. And I think if you just do things the right way, which sounds like you do as well, especially now, I feel like it's even getting better and better. Like, and the longer you sell, the longer track record you have. I'm
Right.
finally at a piece where I'm like, I'm a little more comfortable, you know, like, I don't think it's going to, you know, I don't know that I'd want to put everything into Amazon, but
Sure.
I'm not losing sleep over it anymore. Not that I ever
Right.
really did.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. And it's like you said, probably the people that have been deactivated and haven't been successful in getting their account back were probably like drop shipping or like doing all of these, like
right.
doing everything wrong,
Yeah,
that it's just, if you're smart and you're making good decisions, it's gonna be okay.
totally. I mean, my whole thing is this too. There's so much potential and opportunity in Amazon, and for years to come. Like, I truly don't think this is going away anytime soon. There will always be an opportunity for arbitrage. It's been around as long as time, right? Like, why risk it over silly stuff? You know, like, I can't imagine somebody doctoring an invoice, but it happens, right? And
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
like, there's a million brands to sell. Either be patient, get a proper invoice, or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be.
It's
Like,
like,
it's just
why?
not that serious, you know?
Why? Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, but it
No, it
happens.
doesn't
So
at all.
don't do that if you're out there. Um, Let me ask you, does anything come to mind that maybe like a really simple but major, maybe not major, but like a really good tip maybe that you would like to share with people as far as that are doing RA sourcing? And I have one too that I'll share after you.
Specific to RA sourcing. Let's see. Aside from like obviously being consistent, right? Like that's with anything.
Yeah.
Be consistent, like you said, put in the reps. You're gonna find products if you keep at it. But I'd say something that really helped me is not just relying on the UPC. Don't just
Yeah.
scan the UPC. I used to do that, and then it's like you realize when you stop doing that how many more products you actually find, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I will scan the UPC first, do the image scan, manually search, and then you can also search on the Amazon buying app, which has kind of become one of my go-tos here lately, because it's like,
Interesting.
I feel like this product should be on Amazon. Like, I know the brand, it's a great product, and here, like, I've had really good luck doing that here recently. So what I'll do is I'll find the listing, I'll pull the ASIN, put it in the Amazon seller app, and I've had really good luck doing that. So
I think that's a great tip. Great tip. So just to clarify, in case anyone isn't familiar, instead of just looking up a product in Amazon seller app, scanning app, or Scoutify 2, whatever you use, look at the product from the view of an Amazon customer. And I completely agree with you. I've had instances I'm like, this has to be a product on Amazon.
or
And
you'll try to like manually search and it'll auto, like, it'll give you the suggestions. When you click on it, the listing's
yes,
not there.
no,
So that
I think that,
tells me, okay, the listing's on Amazon somewhere. It's
yep,
just not pulling up. So
100% complete. I think that's a great tip. I was going to say something I've said before, and you kind of mentioned it too. It's like, don't just scan, type in keywords. You can find so many more products, and anytime, and I kind of mentioned this with Trader Joe's because their barcodes don't scan. Anytime that you're willing to do one further step than somebody else, you're going to find better products, or at least products that have a bigger barrier to entry to them, which is almost always going to be advantageous. So
yeah. And look for bundles. Bundles
yes,
are good.
I'm huge on bundles.
Yes.
This grocery bundles is where I got my start. There was like buy one get one frees at the coffee or the grocery chain I would go to every couple weeks, and they always had coffee. And major brands are at this grocery store, and I would take a picture of the shelf and go home and type in coffee 1-pack, coffee 2-pack, coffee variety pack, coffee bundle, and so many options. And just
opens up so many more opportunities.
totally. And also Amazon's fees don't increase at the same rate. Like if Amazon takes $5 on a 1 bag of coffee, they don't take $10 in fees on a 2-pack of that coffee. They might take $7, and then they might take $8.50 on a 3-pack, but the customer is willing to go $5, $10, triple the price basically to get to a 3-pack, if what I'm saying is making sense. So like you create more profit because Amazon fees don't increase at the same rate at the price of the goods. So
yep. And
huge on bundles.
Find listings just with less competition, which is
yep,
what we want.
Exactly. So, all right, so let's start wrapping up here. Something that you do, maybe you are old school in some ways because you have a blog, right? I feel like that's a little old school,
so,
right?
But kind of like a backstory of my blog. Like I started my blog because I wanted to share my journey. Like I wanted to share my just my Amazon selling journey in general, right? But I was working a full-time job, and I was talking in my blog about how Endgame was becoming a full-time Amazon seller. So I didn't want to compromise anything with my employer or anything like that. So the blog was born.
Cool. I like that. That's smart. That's really smart.
I like had the screen name Retail Rogue, and I wouldn't show my face, and it was very like, I felt, I don't know, secretive and cool about hiding
that's really
my
funny.
identity.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, sometimes you don't want your employer to know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And that was it, because I'm literally writing blog posts about how I want to be financially independent and not have a 9-to-5.
Yeah. Let me ask you, as far as I like to ask a lot of people that do have some type of social presence, from Instagram, where I found you and I saw your blog, and what kind of motivates you to do that? Is there anything other than you just like to connect with people? Do you hope to one day get into being able to maybe monetize a little and do some coaching or courses, things like that? Or what's your inspiration for that?
I didn't start it to make money with it. Honestly, to this day, like I'm making a little bit of money on my blog, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Like
awesome
that I'm like writing this content, and now I'm making YouTube videos, and it's like people are reading my stuff and watching my videos, and it's just like, I don't know, it's humbling, I guess.
Yeah.
That, like people are actually care about the content that I'm sharing.
Sure.
I recently started offering coaching calls too, which wasn't something I was really planning on, but I had a few people reach out to me, and so I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can start rolling that out. So I'm really starting to grow my following there, and creating more content that hopefully people find helpful. Something else that I recently started on, I partnered with my friend Jeanette. I don't know if you've seen her in the Amazon space or not, but I'm trying to remember her Instagram handle. It's like Amazon_Steal.
I don't think
She's
so.
in California. So we just kind of connected on Instagram, and recently kind of branched out to start our own business. We started a free Facebook group, and we're working on more behind the scenes. I don't know when this video will come out, so I'm not sure if more will be launched by
Okay.
then, but if it's not, then stay tuned for that, because just working on a lot of fun things behind the scenes that I'm excited about.
Awesome. No, that's great. I love that. You know, for anyone, if I would say also, even if you're not the most comfortable, I can't tell you how many connections from interviews, just messages, people, you know, I had a question, an ungating question. I was looking to get ungated literally this morning in a brand. And I reached out to all the people I've had on as guests, actually. And sure enough, got my question answered, you know, and like, so
Yeah.
if you're on the fence about it, even if you're not trying to do, you know, post a million things, like couple connections here and there can really make your life easier. I would strongly encourage trying to do
Oh
it
my
to some
gosh.
capacity
Yeah,
if you can muster up
100%.
the time and courage. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things, like I am not, I don't know, I call myself an introvert. I'm not really an introvert, but I'm just like a very like keep to myself, quiet, shy person.
Yeah.
So even like on my personal social media pages, I post maybe once a year. Like
Yeah.
I just am not a fan of social media.
Yeah.
And now here I am like posting consistently on my business page. Like I have way more fun doing that and sharing
Yeah.
that type of content. I feel like just because there's a purpose behind it, right? Like
Exactly.
it's more meaningful for me to share content that's going to help than to just share like what I had for dinner yesterday, you know?
You're preaching to the choir. Like I'm
I
extroverted.
guess
I'm
I
very
am old
comfortable.
school because I feel like it's not the typical mindset.
No, it's interesting. I completely agree though. Like I am an extrovert. I love connecting with people, but like, and by the way, not for better or worse, not here to judge anyone. I personally never could grasp, why would I share just random things on social, right? For me, just was never
Yeah,
my
yeah.
thing. I don't post anything. But this, and I have another business, like it makes business sense to do that, you know, like so there's not, it's like, yeah, of course you have to. I have no problem doing it, but I enjoy it as well because it serves a purpose and I can justify
Yeah, yeah.
why I'm doing
Like
it. And
it
like,
helps you, but it can also help tons of other people.
right.
You know, it's like it's one of those things too where I am now partnering with a person on the internet that I've literally never met in
I
person,
know. I love
right?
it.
Like it's if you would have told me that I'd be doing that last year, like never would have believed you for a million years.
I
But
know. I know.
it
It's
opens up
crazy.
so many opportunities.
I kind of feel like, you know, because well, especially if you're doing YouTube, like it's way more time consuming than I think anyone could imagine, especially when you're first figuring it out. I just have to remind myself that like if you're consistent with anything, good things are going to happen, you know,
For
whether that
sure.
be monetary goals, connection goals, helping your business, like good things happen when you're consistently, you know, doing your best or trying to
Yeah,
do
I'd agree
stuff.
with
So
that. It's kind of funny, like I not like judging or bashing social media influencers by any means, but like before starting my blog and my Instagram and YouTube, I'm like, okay, you're an influencer. Like, kudos to all of the influencers out
right.
there because there is so much work that goes into it. You
Yeah.
know, like not in like I'm selling on Amazon, but then I'm also like having to edit my YouTube videos and having to write blog posts and having to make the reels. And there's just way more
Yeah.
that goes into it than what people think.
Completely agree. A lot. At times I'm like, why am I doing this? No,
Yeah, and right
but
now I'm doing it for free. Like I'm
I
not
know,
making anything doing it, but
I
it's
know,
fun. So
I know, but I completely agree. And speaking of that, I guess, where can everybody find you, online?
yeah, so my Instagram's at Retail Rogue, and then my YouTube's the same thing, at Retail Rogue, and then my blog's retailrogue.com.
Oh yeah. And something else too. If you go to Instagram, I love that you give out a free lead every Friday, free lead Friday. So
Yeah, yeah.
definitely
So
go follow her.
I started that a couple, like, I don't know, I guess a couple months ago now, maybe longer than that. But I feel like there's a lot of like negativity around sharing free leads, which I
Yeah.
100% understand. And I'm not doing it to tell people like, hey, here's this item, go buy all of them you can find.
Right.
It's really like, hey, here's this item, here's like showing you this potential opportunity.
Right.
Use that. If you decide to buy it, great, but maybe you can use it to branch out into different categories, different stores, find branch leads off of that item.
Exactly. I
So
think
definitely encourage people to do their due diligence and not just buy the lead because I share it.
yes, I know. I agree. And I actually think it's even a little different for RA versus OA. Like OA, if it's just on a site where anyone could go to any time of day, that can really affect
Sure.
it. But especially RA, you know, not everyone has access to stores. Not every store carries the same thing. If it's clearance, certainly not everybody. But like you said, it just kind of shows this stuff happens all day long, you know?
Yes, exactly. And I will call out with my free leads. I've had several people like send me messages and ask if I'm selling the product. So just to clear the air there, I do not share the leads that I share publicly.
You know,
Not because I don't think that they're good leads, but just to protect my storefront, right?
I'm so glad you said that. I was literally like, I just
Had
thought
people
about
reach
that.
out, and I don't want it to ever come across like I'm sharing a lead that I wouldn't personally share or wouldn't personally sell. I'm just doing it. I'm taking one for the team and sharing it publicly, but not selling it myself.
Completely agree. And if anyone doesn't fully grasp that, so reverse sourcing is where you can go look at any sellers, what they're selling, and you can get to them by looking up a product. So if you know exactly what product it is and you go to it and you look at all the sellers, you can probably filter down to which one is Erica's and then see everything she sells. So she's protecting herself in that regard. It's funny you say that because I've started sharing leads a little. And on both ways, I'm like, oh, wow, if I give them too many leads, they're going to know my storefront and vice versa, you know, which, I mean, I guess, I don't know. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but like, there's no need for everyone to know your storefront online, you know?
And I guess it's too like do you trust the people you're sharing the leads with, right?
Right.
Like,
That's
are they gonna
huge.
like stab you in the back and blast your storefront out there for everybody to see?
Exactly.
Maybe that's not the people you want to be sharing the leads with, but
No, totally. Speaking of, and then we'll sign off. Do you have like anyone in the community that you regularly share leads with?
yeah, there are a handful of people that I share leads with, Jeanette being one of them that
Yeah.
we just kind of connected and I established a relationship with her that I can trust. So I really try to, I don't know, make friendships before it's just like, hey, here's this lead that I found.
Right. No,
You never know.
I think it's something I want to continue to do more of, but you have to really trust the person because the way I see it, if they're selling hypothetically 40K a month and I'm selling 40K a month and we don't have any overlapping products, we both have the capital, we can literally double our business with hardly any more work, you know? But you have to
Yeah.
have someone you really trust.
Yeah. No, there's a huge opportunity there.
I think about that a lot. It's something I do kind of want to do to scale my business, but
If you
I
need
just got
any
to get on
RA
the same page.
leads, if you need any RA leads, I'll hook you up.
All right, cool. Listen, I'm not above RA. All right. I'm not above it. So like I said, I still have a soft spot. I probably do like 10% RA still to this day. So
Okay. Yeah,
but,
then maybe I need to pick your brain with OA then.
all right, cool. That sounds good. So anyway, I'll let you go, Erica. Thank you so much. Retail Rogue Online, as she mentioned, and have a good one.
And I just want to, oh, sorry. I just
Nope.
want to mention the Facebook, our Facebook group. It's coast to coast AMZ.com. You can find us on Instagram and on my page as well. So.
And I'll make sure to find that link in all of your socials and post them into the video as well. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. Take care.
You too. Thanks.
Bye. All right. See ya.